Hi, I'm Cassie.
I'm Tayli.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Ezra.
From our journal entries, we as a group believe that school, relationships, and money have affected our social world the most this semester.
Throughout this video, we're going to talk about those three things she mentioned and how they have impacted us and argue that they're the most significant impacts that have happened in our lives throughout this semester. The first one was school, which is just all the work we have to do for it and attending here. And then the second one was relationships, which is just any interaction with the people around us, whether that's roommates, friends, or romantic relationships. And the third section is money. And that's just about how our need for money and the way that we obtain money, whether that's through work or scholarships, and how that impacts our life.
So we combined all of our journals to get some statistics, and we found out that 24% of our total journals talked about school, and 48 total entries out of the 200 talked about school. We also found out that 87% of our journals had relationships in them, and 174 total entries had relationships in them. There was a little less for money. There was only 9% and 18 total entries, but it was still a major part of it. A couple of our entries didn't talk about any of these subjects, and then there were a couple that had multiple entries on multiple subjects. So our percentages were a little bit off, but we got the gist of what things were talked about the most between all of them.
So one of the social institutions that we thought impacted us the most was school, and evidence of that I showed in my journal. I wrote often about how stressed out I was about assignments I was working on, and one of those examples was this big final project I had for this week, and I've been writing about it for weeks because it was stressing me out so much, and the stress would cause me to shut down and procrastinate, and it really impacted all my actions because I was less likely to go out. I had to stay home and study, or I would not study, I would just watch Netflix because I was stressed. And so school is something that really impacted a lot of my behavior this semester. One other way that school and the stress it caused impacted my behavior, and many other college students, I think, this semester, was the temptation to cheat or to cut corners, which is a form of deviance that we experience because of the high expectations that school has on us. I wrote about a lot in my program. It's very difficult to get in. They only have about a 50% acceptance rate, and I have to apply next semester. And the temptation to do anything I can to reach those expectations, even maybe not with honest means, and to be deviant is strong. But I learned that if I just stay with the means that they've provided us to study and to do homework and to do the things they've asked us to do, that I can succeed.
School sucks and I've never been a fan, but transitioning from high school to college, I've learned the hard way to stay on top of my schoolwork. On September 14th, I wrote, "Hey journal, it's 10:30 p.m. and I just remembered that I have an essay due at 11:59. From going to school, doing homework, sleep, and social life, I've learned to adjust to admirable conflicts."
Going to school and being around a lot of motivated students helps me to be more goal-oriented. My roommates and I decided to become accountability buddies, and we would help each other to be motivated to go to school and do our homework. This is similar to functionalism. In order for each of us to function and perform well in school, we had to work with each other to help each other become better. On November 22nd, I wrote in my journal, "I really didn't want to go to class today, but my roommate encouraged me to go. Later on, I helped her with her homework."
Balancing school, work, social life, and still managing to get some sleep is not an easy task. Trying to manage a certain status set and all the roles that accompany it can be very exhausting. I wrote in my journal on multiple occasions about how stressed out I was. As a student, I'm trying to attend school and get good grades, make enough money to keep myself above the poverty line, which is not going too well, I should point out, and striving to keep up with social norms and make friends. On one specific entry on October 18th, I wrote, "I feel like there are not enough hours in the day for all the things I have to do. Please send help."
So another social institution that greatly impacts me is my family. I wrote about them a lot this semester. One in particular is my older sister, Tia. She is newly married and she teaches elementary school, first grade. This semester she was diagnosed with a heart disease. It's called dilated familial cardiomyopathy. This has been really hard on her, and because of this she's had to be on a bunch of medications. One time I was talking to her and this conversation greatly impacted me. On October 20th, 2016, I wrote, "Tia has found out she very likely will never be able to have children because of the heart medications she is on. The medications are keeping her alive. I cannot express how much this breaks my heart." Because of the social construction in our society of gender roles, she feels a lot of pressure to have children, to have a family. It's something she's been socialized to dream of doing her whole life. And she feels like a failure now, like she's not good enough, like she's made a mistake. And it's been really hard to hear that from her. And this has impacted me a lot. Not only have I spent time talking to her, thinking about her and hurting for her, but I realized that we can't make assumptions about the people around us just because of what we've been socialized to believe or to expect. We need to treat everyone with respect and realize that we don't know everything going on in their lives.
Relationships are great, but being states away from my family and friends really took a toll on me in the beginning of the year. On October 1st, I wrote, "Hey journal, my niece was just born yesterday and I'm on my way to Provo to see my family and my brand new baby niece. Being separated from my primary group took a toll on me and caused me to be homesick, but seeing them that weekend made me really happy."
My boyfriend and I are in a long-distance relationship. He lives in Salt Lake City and I live here in Logan. I drive down often to visit him, and he has a huge influence on me because we're around each other often. We even speak and act a lot alike, and he's a primary group for me. I use this term loosely because it only consists of the two of us, but he heavily influences me. On October 25th, I wrote, "I love you for teaching me to enjoy moments."
Relationships with others are such a huge part of your social life and the behaviors that you have. A primary group for me for relationships is the one I have with my roommates. I do pretty much everything with them, and as you live with them and spend so much time together, they're obviously going to influence so many parts of your life and so many behaviors that you do. On one specific instance, on the 9th of September, I wrote, "My new roommate seems like she won't be the worst and isn't totally making my life suck." So that's pretty cool, I guess.
The third element that affected us this semester was money. On September 19th, 2016, I wrote an entry about one of my scholarship applications. It was due the 15th of September and I forgot to apply. And I'd already done everything I was supposed to do. All I had to do was resend in my stuff and I forgot and I lost thousands of dollars. It sucked. I was panicking because I had no backup, I had no other plans. And just like everyone else mentioned, money stresses us out. We need it, and it's hard to come by, especially when you're in college. Luckily, I got very lucky, and about 2 days after I missed the deadline, they emailed me and said, "Oh, hey, we'll excuse your missing the deadline. We accept your appeal," which is interesting because I never sent in an appeal. So I got very lucky, I got the money back. This story shows how conflict theory is apparent in our society. The poor college students are those that are oppressed, or the proletariat, because we are expected to pay all this money to gain an education in order to afford the living for the rest of our lives, and yet most of the jobs available to us are about $7.25 an hour. So the bourgeoisie, or the rest of the society that does have money, doesn't give enough opportunities, I feel like, for students to afford school.
Money is the ultimate struggle being a college kid, and not having a job sucks, so I have to rely on my parents. On October 17th, I wrote, "Hey Journal, just had an awesome experience getting my card declined at McDonald's. Using the idea of the looking glass self, I felt pretty stupid in front of everyone there."
At the beginning of the school year, I worked at Swig, which is a soda shop here in Logan. I felt that I was not a part of the in-group while I was working there. I felt excluded by everyone, including my manager. This heavily influenced how many shifts that I took because I didn't want to be around these people. And in turn, this affected how much money that I made. So I eventually quit, and that forced me to work for my parents, and I only earned a small wage just cleaning their house. My surroundings heavily influenced me negatively. On October 1st, I wrote, "Today I put in my 2 weeks. I could not stand it any longer."
Money is a huge stressor for college students especially. When I first started writing this journal, I was trying to get residency for school, and it was not going well. I wrote about how frustrated I was because I was trying to work to achieve social mobility and better myself, and it was proving to be so difficult. I wasn't getting any help from FAFSA because they were looking at my stepdad's income rather than taking into account that he was not the one responsible for paying tuition. I was frustrated because although I can see why they would want to use McDonaldization to make the process more efficient and quick, I also wanted them to look at each person's situation individually because I was stressed because I wanted to attend college, but I can't afford that on my income, and my mom can't afford it on hers, and so it was just something that was really stressful to me. As I looked through the journal, I remember how stressed I was about it and how happy I was when I finally got residency. My last comment about it was on September 16th, and I said, "Yay, yay, yay, I got residency." I didn't think it would actually happen, but it did, and I've never felt so relieved in my whole life.
We came to the conclusion that school and money affect us pretty negatively, but for the most part, relationships are positive.
So, to summarize our video, we believe that school, relationships, and money are the three elements that have the biggest impact on our lives and on our behaviors. We showed this by going through our journals and talking about specific examples, and through the percentages, the statistics that we showed you, that these really are things that impact us a lot.
As a result of these journal entries, I had a few things that I wanted to work on. So for school, I wanted to do my homework more and make sure I'm going to class every single day. Money, I would like to budget my money better. And then for relationships, I learned that they're very valuable and I would like to strengthen them more.
I learned that I usually put a lot of importance on what others think about me and not as much importance about what I really want to be doing, and so that's something that I could work on. I also learned that I need to really just stop procrastinating and get my responsibilities done sooner rather than later, so I'm not a big ball of stress at a different point in my life. Another thing that I learned is that I should continue to try to put an effort in the relationships I have because that is something that impacts me so much.
One thing I learned looking back on all these journal entries is that I need to be better with money. So I plan on getting a job next semester and yep. And what? And
Looking back on all my journal entries and learning about sociology this year, there's one thing that I thought of that I would like to improve on. And the one thing I noticed is most of the time what I wrote about was being stressed or upset about something or panicking. And I think I let all of these institutions around me and these elements cause me to stress out and to shut down. So one thing I'd like to improve on, work on, is just to not allow things to get to me as much, because usually it works out in the end. So to be more positive.
In conclusion, we learned that through keeping a journal and through learning about sociology through this semester, we found that we could probably do some things a little bit differently, but there are some things that we do really well. And we feel like it helped to give us a perspective on our lives and the people around us, and that's super awesome. Because apparently that's a thing.
Impacted a lot of my behavior this semester. Okay. Another part of
Okay.
No, stop. You can't video with me yet. Going to school and being around motivated people helps me to be more. At the beginning of the school year, I worked at. Please. I'm really sorry that I'm
Imagining to get some fudge. It's not an easy track tap. Frick. Frickin' suck.
We came to the conclusion.
And damn it.